Hi everyone, welcome. Down here in my wormery, it's become common practice for me to use two bins at a time to launch off what I almost consider to be like a dual system. So if you look at these two systems stacked up over here, they share the same start date, January 14th, over here too, December 5th. But then you get to this pair of bins right here that have a distinct difference in their ages. Well, not that much, but one of them started in the beginning of October, and then this one started near the end of November, so there's a good month and a half difference. I don't remember, maybe it was something in the neighborhood of about 43 days difference in their ages. And they're the systems that I decided at some point just to buddy them up and manage them as a pair. Most all the other systems that I have also are managed as pairs and were launched on the same day, resulting in buddy bins. Well, no, in those cases they'd be like brother bins or sister bins. Here they're buddy bins, don't share the same birthday. And these little guys were last checked in on 10 days ago, and I'm kind of hoping that they're ready for some more food because I came down here with a nice assortment of delicious stuff from my freezer. So I'm going to put a glove on, get these systems up on the bench, and we're going to get them fed. So let's get started. So now if you were reading the fine print on the grain board, the stuff that I didn't review, there was info on there, such as the number of days that have passed since it was since we fed gourds to both systems. And there was also another note in there how the older of the two systems also has a cork in it, a cork that had not been showing up for quite some time. So during the last check-in, we spent way too much time looking for it, and I believe I did plop the cork somewhere down into a spot where it might be relatively easy to encounter it again, but it no longer had the length of the original size of what a cork normally is, It was just a little tiny fragment, and I was just identifying it by the way it had that springy kind of rebound consistency or texture, whatever, I don't know what the right word is, but when you squeeze it, it springs back to its previous shape, So that was the only piece we could find. I even had a period of time when the camera turned off in the middle of me searching for the cork, and I just let the camera stay off until I had a chance to come back and actually find it, I think, if I remember correctly. So one of the gourds, we had three, so one of the three gourds got broken and split so that each system received half of one, and that's what we're seeing a bit of over here, and another chunk of it right here. And then each system received a whole gourd. And my gourds, sometimes I just feel like, having stuff sitting around waiting to get composted is time during which certain things can be tried. So in the case of these gourds, I thought to myself, well, what if I were to submerge them? And, they're a pretty solid object, full of air. It's going to float. So I punched holes into each of the gourds that I submerged underwater, and they were submerged for, I can't remember now, a month and a half maybe. Quite a long time. So I guess the idea there was to see if it helps increase the speed at which the objects break down. I never got the sense that they softened in any way by being submerged, so my guess is that we're not going to see a whole lot of difference. And I think the thing that finally got me to take the gourds out of their soaking bath and place them into these two systems was what I saw on another worm farming channel where gourds had just been placed in perhaps a week and a half prior to me doing mine, thinking that we can keep tabs on how the gourds progress in that other channel's system. But I didn't keep up with what was being done over there, because what was being done over there was the gourds actually got broken into little pieces already. And last week I already kind of had the option to do just that too, but I didn't even bother trying. In fact, I don't even know if it would be possible, because these things definitely feel tough and hard and thick. So I don't even know if I'd be able to break them, but I decided today if I can, I will. But if they don't give yet, then we'll just have to come back another time and try in the future. Well, let's complete the excavation of the feeding zone over here in the younger system. I did look at the video from the last check-in to see what kind of stuff we fed, and I definitely saw the citrus, so in a way I already expected to find these chunks of orange peel. The other stuff, though, that I remember getting put in seemed like kind of leafy or juicy kind of vegetable matter that would probably go pretty quick, especially considering the way I prep most of the things that get fed to my worms, which is to put them in the freezer. And I think just that process of something freezing and thawing, especially something with a good bit of juice and moisture in it, it's just going to kind of get a little bit of a jump start on the breakdown process just by having gone through that freezing and thawing process. So that's part of the reason it's also just convenient to be able to keep stuff around for almost an indefinite period of time frozen before you can get around to feeding them to the wormies. I suppose if I were really determined to, oh boy, that was fun. If I were really determined to get these gourds broken, I could have my pocket knife here to help me in case I'm unable to just break them with my hands. I could feel the material flexing. This one I think is thinner. I wonder if this one will give. No, neither one wants to give. It's interesting. This one just has these kind of fins or ribs or something on them to I guess strengthen it or whatever, make it look more interesting. So unusual. I don't know why my gourds just won't give and are not interested in proceeding into the breakdown process quite yet, but hopefully at some point soon we'll be able to get them going. But for now they're just gonna sort of accompany our feedings and hang out where the action is, in the hopes that at some point they'll start to break down a little bit. Let's proceed with getting these little guys fed. There's my prepared bedding here with a little bit of bonus sawdust included. I don't know, I thought I heard somewhere or read somewhere how worms like wood. I even thought that one of the nicknames for red wigglers, which is the type of worms that live in these systems, I thought that somehow woodworms or some sort of like name similar to that was one of their nicknames, because red wigglers do seem to have a number of different nicknames. Alright, mango seed still inside of its husk, leftover piece of citrus, a busted gourd, a full gourd, and maybe next time, if we're really intent on seeing these whole gourds fragmented into smaller pieces so that they maybe, start into the breakdown process, I could always grab my trusty knife, but not today. We're not going to bother with that. Let's get their feeding in here. It's got a good bit of weight to it, so I think it'll be a nice hefty portion. I don't remember seeing coffee filters when we first arrived. Coffee filters I typically use as feeding zone indicators and drop them on top of where we last fed after everything's been backfilled. So I think we'll do the same here today, now that we've got ourselves a couple of lovely coffee filters to lay down here. And besides that shredded paper, cardboard, and leaf mixture we used as bedding, I've also got this piece of paper here that requires disposal, and I figured let's compost it with the worms. Oh yeah, we've also got a little additional yummy bite-sized treat for the worms here. Coffee. And that looks like a nice feeding already, but we can even make it better by including a little bit of grit. Yeah, I think that'll do. I think that will be quite a nice feeding. So I can't remember now, you know, I've been jumping on this little thing in a couple of my systems now. It might have even been here that I made the conscious decision not to upturn the outer edges, because usually at this point I would normally excavate the outer edges to come up with a few handfuls of material that we could use to backfill the feeding zone. I've been just randomly here and there not doing that. So I think we're going to do the same here today. We're just going to return some material that was nudged off to the edges and cover up the feeding zone with what we've got available without needing to excavate to come up with a whole bunch of stuff. And I think we'll just leave it at that, you know, because there was one last little bonus that I wanted to include before we start covering up here, which was the application of a little bit of leafy matter. I've got a little bit left here. I think I'll hang on to that for whatever reason, but it always seems like the worms tend to appreciate the leafy matter when it gets sprinkled out onto the top surface for them. They do seem to enjoy nibbling on it. So let's get these feeding zone indicators in place to show us where we last fed, in case that ever comes into question and we can't remember. We've got ourselves a little cheat sheet there. And back on can come the plastic. Here I could see a worm that was on the plastic but was protected since I folded the whole plastic in half. Here are the wormies that might have been stuck on this thing. Well, they were just exposed to the bright lights and the dry air, so I'm sure they're glad to be back in the dampness of their home. So that's it for the check-in, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. That's always really appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel. That's very much appreciated as well. All right, everyone, have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye now.